Too many animes don't receive a proper sequel or ending, with most shows basically concluding on a read the manga note. However, occasionally the stars align and the anime gods deem the world worthy of receiving something more. It is a good day whenever a movie is announced as a successor to an anime series, even if these films tends to be harder to come outside of Japan than their shows. As only top tier series get themselves movie sequels, these releases tends to be rather high quality. So in today's video, we are going over the top 10 list of movie sequels of anime series that you didn't knew existed. So without any further ado, let's start with our list. On the 10th number, the movie name is Piola Magi Madoka Magica, the movie Rebellion. This movie is the third movie of the Madoka Magica the movie trilogy and the first movie which serves as a sequel to the story. The young girls of Mitakihara happily lives their life, occasionally fighting off evil but otherwise going about these peaceful everyday routines. However, Homura Akemi feels something is wrong with this unusually pleasant atmosphere. Though other people remains oblivious, she cannot help but suspect that there is more to what is going on than meets the eye. Someone who should not exist is currently present to join in on their activities. Piola Magi Madoka Magica the movie Rebellion follows Homura in her struggle to uncover the painful truth behind the mysterious circumstances as she selfishly and desperately fights for the sake of her undying love in the despair-ridden conclusion to the story of 5 magical girls. On the 9th number, the movie name is Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba, the movie Mugen Train. The film begins right after the second season with our heroes Tanjiro, Nezuko, Zenitsu and Inosuke who board the Mugen Train as numerous passengers have disappeared due to a demon attack. Now they are joined by the flame Hashira Rengoku, who aids them on their mission, even going as far as making them his apprentices. Things take a dark turn when one of the lower moon demons, Enmu, hijacks the train and induces everyone, including our heroes, into a deep sleep. We then go into a deep dive into the characters' fantasies and desires as they slowly but surely begins to see that everything is not as it seems. This results in an all-out battle where our heroes have to resist Enmu's temptation and keep passengers safe at all costs. Kimetsu no Yaiba movie Mugen Train delves into the deepest corners of the Tanjiro's mind, putting his resolve and commitment to the duty to the test. On the 8th number, the movie name is Skeon the movie. Graduation looms on the founding members of the Light Music Club, with only a few precious weeks of school left. The girl decides to make the most of it and plan a trip to abroad. Hawaii, New York, Dubai, many destinations are suggested. But after a little help from the club's precious pet turtle Tonchan, London is chosen as a host of their next misadventure. Yui, Mio, Tsumugi, Ritsu and Azusa will visit famous landmarks, perform their live music for Londoners and eat all sorts of delicious food, all while stumbling clumsily from place to place. But the fun won't last forever as heartfelt songs and goodbyes will be made as their high school days together comes to a close. One thing is for certain though, the undeniable friendship these girls have formed is something that will carry on long after the final scene rolls. On the 7th number, the movie is Steins Gate, the movie Lord Region of Deja Vu. After the events of anime, Rintaro begins to feel the repercussions of extensive time travel and eventually completely fades from reality. After a year in America, Kurisu Makise returns to Akihabara and reunites with Rintaro Okabe. However, the reunion is cut short when Okabe begins to experience recurring flashes of other timelines as the consequences of his time traveling start to manifest. These side effects eventually results in Okabe suddenly vanishing from the world and only the startled Kurisu has any memory of his existence. In the midst of despair, Kurisu is faced with a truly audacious choices that will test both her duty as a scientist and her loyalty as a friend. Kurisu have two choices: follow Okabe's advice and stay away from traveling through the time to avoid potential consequences that may have on the other world lines, or ignore it to rescue the person that she cherishes the most. Regardless of her decision, the path she chooses is one that will affect the past, the present, and the future. On the 6th number, the movie name is Gintama, the final chapter, Be Forever Yorozuya. When Gintoki apprehends a movie pirate at a premiere, he checks the camera footages and finds himself transported to a bleak, post-apocalyptic version of Edo, where mysterious epidemic called as White Plague has ravaged the world's population. It turns out that the movie pirate wasn't a pirate after all, it was an android time machine, and Gintoki has been hurtled 5 years into the future. Shinpachi and Kagura have had a falling out and are now a battle-hardened solo vigilance, and he himself have been missing for years, disappearing without a trace after scribbling a strange message on his journal. Setting out in the disguise given to him by the android time machine, Gintoki haphazardly reunites with the Yorozuya team to investigate the White Plague, and soon discovers that the key to saving the future lies in the darkness of his own past. Determined to confront a powerful foe, he makes an important discovery. With a ragtag band of friends and allies at his side, he doesn't have to fight alone now. So if you are a Gintama fan, this is the last movie from the Gintama franchise. So this is a movie that you should definitely watch. On the 5th number, the movie name is Rascal Does Not Dream of a Dreaming Girl. In Fujisawa, where the skies are bright and the seas are glistened, Sakuta Azusagawa is in his second year of high school. His blissful days with his girlfriend and the upper classmate Mai Sakurajima are interrupted with the appearance of his first crush, Shoko Makinohara. For reasons unknown, he encounters two Shokos, one in the middle school and another one who has become an adult. As Sakuta finds himself helplessly living with the Shokos, the adult Shoko leads him around by the nose, causing a huge rift in his relationship with Mai. In the midst of all of this, he discovers that the middle-aged Shoko is suffering from a grave illness and his scars begins to throb. With Shoko's bizarre situation somehow revolving around him, Sakuta will need to come to terms with his own conflicting feelings for better or worse. With a girl's life in his hand, just what can he do? On the 4th number, the movie is Konosuba, Legend of Crimson. It is not strange that the Demon Lord forces fear on the Crimson Demons, the clan from which Megumin and Yunyun originates. Even if the Demon Lord's general attacks their village, the Crimson Demons can just easily brush them off with their supreme mastery of advanced and overpowered magic. When Yunyun receives a seemingly serious letter regarding a potential disaster coming to her hometown, she immediately informs Kazuma Sato and the rest of his party. After a series of wacky misunderstandings, it turns out to be a merry prank by her fellow demons who wants to be an author. Even so, Megumin becomes worried about her family and sets out towards the Crimson Demons village with his gang. There, Kazuma and the others decide to sightsee the wonders of Megumin's birthplace. However, they soon comes to realize that the nonsense threat they received might have been more than just a joke. On the 3rd number, the movie name is Neon Genesis Evangelion, The End of Evangelion. Shinji Ikari is left emotionally distracted after the death of a dear friend. With his son mentally unable to pilot the humanoid robot Evangelion Unit 1, Gendo Ikari's nerve races against the shadow organization SEAL to see who can enact their ultimate plan first. SEAL desires to create a godlike being by fusing their own souls into the Evangelion units, while Gendo wishes to revert all the humanity into a primordial being so that he can be reunited with Yui, who is his descended wife. SEAL unleashes its military forces in a lethal invasion of NERV headquarters. As SEAL forces cut down of NERV scientists and security personnel, Asuka Langley pilots Evangelion Unit 2 in a desperate last stand against SEAL's heaviest weaponry. The battle rages on and a depressed Shinji hides deep within the NERV's headquarters, with the fate of the world resting in Shinji's hands. Captain Misato Katsuragi hunts for the teenage boy as society crumbles around them. On the 2nd number, the movie name is The Disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya. On a cold December day, Kyon arrives at school prepared for another outing with his fellow SOS Brigade members. However, much of his surprise, he discovers that almost everything has changed completely. Haruhi Suzumiya and Itsuki Kozumi are nowhere to be found, while on the other side, Mikuru does not recognize him at all. Yuki Nagato is a regular human and Ryoko Asakusa has mysteriously returned. Although he is no stranger to the supernatural events, Kyon is disturbed by this odd turn of events and decides to investigate on his own. Finding himself to be the only person that is aware of the previous reality, Kyon is now faced with a difficult choice: to finally live the normal life that he has always wanted, or to uncover a way to turn back the hands of time and restore his chaotic yet familiar world. And on the first number, the movie name is Made in Abyss: Dawn of the Deep Soul. Made in Abyss: Dawn of the Deep Soul is the third movie in the Made in Abyss franchise, and the first to cover the content beyond the first season of the anime. It covers the Edo front arc. After bonding over a tragic loss, the long-suffering Nanachi joins Riko and Reg on their journey into the depths of the Abyss. Awaiting the children is the Sea of Corpses, the Abyss' fifth layer, where a traveler cannot return from without losing their human form. The masked sadist Bondrewd stands between the children and the rest of their adventure. Bondrewd's horrific laboratory serves as a final checkpoint for those wishing to transverse deeper into the Abyss, and the sociopathic scientists that have no desire to allow Riko's party to pass through at no cost. Bondrewd's only apparent weakness is Prushka, a brand child who claims to be his daughter. Riko, Reg and Nanachi befriends Prushka and works with this girl to overcome her father's machinations and breach the Abyss's sixth layer. If you haven't watched Made in Abyss: Dawn of the Deep Soul, you will not understand the second season, or you might even understand the second season, but you are going to miss a lot of content. So definitely watch all of the movies that are listed in this list, because if you don't watch them, you will not understand the endings of the series or the next upcoming seasons of them. So definitely watch all of these, and that's for today's video guys. Comment your favorite movie name in the comment section down below and check out my other top 10 videos over here. So if you enjoyed, please subscribe to this YouTube channel and like this video, and I will see you in the next one. Sayonara.